Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand TV. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal brand and business development company. I want to take you on a journey through another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand TV series, you will differentiate yourself from the competition and build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build confidence, and reflect who you are. Building your 5-star personal brand is a great way to improve your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh@5starbdm.com. Now, let's begin with our next episode on the Follow the Brand TV. Hello. Let's let everybody get in. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wow, we've got a full house. I love how they all just pop in like this. This is wonderful. So I am Grant McGaugh. I'm the CEO of 5-Star BDM and host of the Follow the Brand podcast and TV show. Today, we are going to talk with industry experts who are at the intersection of technology, disability, and accessibility. We will discuss the potential to greatly improve the lives of individuals around the world in a number of ways. We will explore assistive technology that will help people with disabilities perform daily activities that may be challenging for them. We will talk about communication technology to access information and knowledge, social inclusion technology, which can also help to reduce social isolation for people with disabilities by providing opportunities for them to connect with others and participate in social activities. The intersection of technology, accessibility, and disabilities can lead to a more inclusive and equitable society where everyone has the opportunity to participate fully and achieve their goals. However, it is important to ensure that technology is designed with accessibility in mind from the outset, and that people with disabilities are involved in the development and implementation of these technologies. So let's introduce our panelists. Who we got here? Oh, we got a lot of good people. We're going to start from and go to my right. I'd like for you to introduce yourself and just state your passion or what is it that you solve with your skill set. So Dulce, I'd like to start with you.
Hey, so I'm Dulce Berga, technologist who builds avatars and builds worlds. Been spending the last 3 or 4 years now building virtual spaces and avatars for clients and different events. Made a virtual chess game on WebXR, and I'm currently building out sets of avatars for several different metaversal spaces. I attended the MIT hackathon this past January, and Marcus was on my team, and we won. And it was very centered around accessibility for people who have been disenfranchised and utilizing technology to help them do that.
Excellent. Well, since you called him out, we'll go to Mark. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that nice segue, Dulce. So I'm Marcus Anderson. I'm a cyborg anthropologist, and basically what that discusses is the interconnections between humans and technology, and it really creates this discourse that breaks down those boundaries. So to say, as we are creating technology, technology is also creating us, and so being mindful of the prompts and the inputs that are going into building hardware and software. I think it's important to have multiple amounts of voices when it comes to actually the creation of what the future looks like. And so through that, yes, we've been working hard and diligently to create these different on-ramps when it comes to the unhoused, helping them to actually visualize, conceptualize their dream home, and then we'll be able to use those tools to actually make that vision a reality.
Oh man, that's wonderful work. Wonderful work. How about Giselle?
Take myself off of mute there. Hi everyone, Giselle Mota. I do a lot of different things. So if you see me out in the world, you'll see that I'm the Chief of Product Inclusion at ADP. But for this call today, I have a personal project that's called Nifty Collective. And basically, I just continue my love for inclusion and my passion for people with disabilities. I myself am dyslexic. I talk a lot about neurodiversity and how do we bring into digital representation, but also extended reality and mixed reality. Like, how do we bring disability inclusion, representation, and accessibility into things like AR, VR, gaming of all different types? So our project right now, we got invited to create a game on the sandbox in the metaverse with our avatars and characters that represent people from all around the world with disabilities and differences, visual differences. So we have people with our avatars have vitiligo. They have their, we have an acid attack victim from India, a woman, and we try to represent everything that we can, and we're trying to really normalize that disabilities and visual differences and even neurodiversities, they're all part of who we are, and we should have the choice to represent that even in our digital identities.
Right, completely agree. Thank you for sharing. How about Dr. Ed?
Hey, thank you very much, Grant. My name is Dr. Ed, and I'm just a geek kid who was shown forgiveness by his grade 7 French teacher. I needed this forgiveness because I was caught cheating in school. You see, I also had undiagnosed ADHD, probably dyslexia as well, and I kept falling further and further behind in school. And I thought I was dumb. So cheating was the only way that I would make it through school. But when my French teacher, instead of suspending me and telling my parents about what I did, Mr. Bélanger said, I know Ed's struggling, but he's creative, so it's going to be okay. I'm going to give him opportunities to share this creativity within his class. And that's been my focus throughout all the way up to my PhD. And right now with AI parenting, I'm focused on how can we make the learning of the fundamentals behind the metaverse a little bit more accessible. So here we're getting kids to build like little robots and things with wood, toys that they can take home. So that it becomes not just a video that you watch, but something that you can hold in your hand, because the aspect of robotics is very important for the next phase.
Awesome. I'm loving this panel already. I'm gonna go all the way down to the bottom on my screen, and so that is Shakar Oz.
Oz is fine. Oz is fine.
Oz is fine. I will go with that.
My name is too complicated. My first name. Well, I have been for the last 15 years, I guess. Since I started working, I have been wrapped around with two big, let's say, areas or hats. One is the technology, the emergent one. Either it's video games. I started as a video game designer, developer, and then augmented reality came out, and then there was virtual reality, and then there was 3D sensors and depth sensors, etc., and AI, machine learning, compute. And on the other side, I have a big hat, a lot of activity in education. Until today, I'm still teaching young. I'm working very closely with teachers, either with students or with teachers, in parallel to all my work. And to respond to your question, the very good question about motivation, I think that the motivation that drives me is to make people smile and happy. I think that the point is that we must realize in the end that we are here for limited time, whether we come back here or not, another life, but we are here for a limited time. And what drives me is that the fact that we just have to be a big happy community and spend our time here well, and make sure that it will stay alive also for the future. That's my my motivation.
You are most modest. I saw some of your work that you do, and I couldn't believe the work that you did with an individual with disability. And they were playing a guitar like in air, and
Yes.
it's beautiful. It made me smile. It made me feel happy. It made me feel connected. And for that person who, through technology, were able to actually have that interaction. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I really connect to what Ed was saying, and also what Giselle was saying. I am also, I think we are three now here. Maybe there will be also, I don't know, we will see. But I also had this kind of unidentified ADHD. Eventually, I was identified because of, because of a teacher that told me, listen, you cannot fail that test. Obviously, you are a good student, so just go to do this test. And eventually they found it. But in any case, the point is that accessibility is close to my heart as well. Yes, it's a big area, but okay, we will speak about this later.
Awesome. And then we got Barik. I know he's a big speaker, so we're going to save him for last. So hit us with it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. Barik Rifki here from Djibouti, that tiny country in East Africa. I'm a ranking member in the public administration. My main mission is to get technology accessible for all. May it be via the public sector, by implementing laws, or working NGOs, or working with the NGOs. So helping them to create and to innovate by that, helping gather the best minds, actually, and try to foster what we can call that shift that we are going through technology these days, and coming from an African country that has beautiful infrastructures when it comes to telecoms. So I'm here to bring a new perspective coming from government admin, and I'm not that hot. Like I haven't created anything that exciting as Dr. Ed and us, but we'll try to keep up with you guys.
No, it's about, that's why we have a well-rounded panel. We want to have good discussion. And our audience that's out there that's listening, we want you to chime in. We want you to go into the chats, send your thoughts out there. Let's have an interactive discussion. We're going to have a discussion, right? We're going to talk about some things. Because, when I think about things and I think about disability, and I remember, I'm a little older maybe than a couple people here, but I remember that a lot of legislation had to happen just to have, the same access to a building. We were building things and designing things without even thinking about other people that might be a challenging type of design if you build it. So we had to become more conscious. And I think that's what we're talking about now. So this is going to be an open discussion. I want you to chime in. I use the term barbershop discussion. You see beauty shop discussion as well. Open forum. We're going to have some discussion. I want you to chime in with your passion, because that's what's going to get the audience involved. And we're going to really have some scintillating conversation that can get some things done. So the first question is about accessibility and technology for all people, regardless of ability. How would you approach that?
I think were you reaching out to any particular person, Grant? All right, I'll start. I'll get the ball rolling here. So I think that something I even try to tell people to change their mentality when it comes to accessibility and the products is that, yes, we are designing for all, but we're also designing for the some, and you can do both at the same time. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And we don't often realize how many products we use on a daily basis that started by maybe focusing on an individual group of people, right? So Siri, we might use, you know, again, with me, I love to get information from speech to text. I don't really like reading that much, and reading comprehension was a struggle for me in school, Dr. Ed. So, you know, I also felt that way growing up. But, you know, any kind of tool like that actually started with people with disabilities in mind, people who weren't able to use their keyboard to text with their hands and fingers. And so today we use it commonly. So I think if we start to design spaces like extended reality, the metaverse, all these different types of conversations that we're having, if we start to design it with the some in mind, we will design for all. Eventually it will become commonplace. Everyone will like to use it in that manner. And so I think we just need to normalize it a little bit.
I think we're also missing a key component to society in general is the infrastructure around enabling accessibility and giving it to people who aren't able to go to certain places or participate in certain things because the infrastructure is not set in place for them to have that accessibility. And that really starts with us as technologists figuring out how we take the technologies that we're building and filter that into everything around society. And what does that mean? I mean, if we're building out spatialized existences and spatialized experiences, we need to come up with systems that can handle the hardware, can handle the software, can handle the people. And then what does that look like? You know, if we're walking around with virtual reality glasses on or augmented reality glasses on, and we're shifting back and forth between real life and this virtual space, how is that set up for us? And how is it including everybody in that configuration? You know, what is the haptic experience like? What is the tracking experience like? What are the guardians like? How do they interact with somebody who can't necessarily hear or can't see or have limited mobility? You know, what does that all mean moving forward? And I think that's where we really need to start.
If I can add on top of what Dulce just said, I think that the infrastructure is absolutely very important, and it's important to understand like AI is basically it controls what you see on the internet and controls attention, and it's a type of power that exists there. And so I do feel like it's super important for us to be aware of the underlying infrastructure that is the AI systems that are doing a lot of the controls. And the other thing I would add is, like, when we talk about accessibility for all people, I think we also need to recognize the 44% of people in the metaverse who are from China. They don't speak English as like their natural language. I think of, there are many people who are advocates for this space, but I do think unless we really consider the different languages as another point of accessibility, we're going to have difficulty connecting. We're going to be more divided. We're going to be less connected.
Interesting. You like that?
Yeah, but I wanted to add something about this, because if we go with the mindset, of creating new applications, new services, etc., when it comes to metaverse, I think that many of you will be okay with me will agree with me with the fact that let's think about what are the solutions that we are bringing to these communities that are. I'm not talking about Europe. I'm not talking about the US. I'm not talking about Japan and all these, developed country. But as you said in the question, this is accessibility for everyone. Being in a third world country today is a handicap for a majority of people that can actually use the metaverse, AI, VR, etc., etc. So I think that we have to go with the mindset of what are the solutions that we are bringing to these communities to actually build on it, and then give them or create solutions as a whole for them to have these connections or this connectivity or these applications. Just to build upon what Dulce and Dr.
No, without question. The thing about sometimes we take things for granted. I live in the U.S. I live in Miami, Florida. So you always have an always on type of infrastructure, whether it's electricity or whatever. You're just used to that, not understanding in other parts of the world that is not the case. And what does that really look like? Because as we go back to the original question, we talk about design we talk about accessibility, and we realize even right now, there's a lot of people that don't even have accessibility to current physical and digital realities. And then I want to pivot just a little bit because I did this just before we jumped on. I said, well, you know what? I'm not sure how to pronounce some of the names. I'm going to go into this app and say, hey, tell me how to pronounce a name. And some of the name, they said, we can't help you. We don't know that name. We don't know how to pronounce it. It's not in the database. I'm sure in your respective countries, it's not that unique. However, it's not there. It's missing. So you have a whole missing symphony of sound and light and meaning and consciousness and whatnot that is normalized in other parts of the world, but then not to who are the designers and the creators of the platforms. So my question is this: how do we promote social inclusion and accessibility for marginalized communities?
Yeah, maybe I can jump in there. A lot of the work that I do really focuses on relationships, right? What is my relationship to myself? What is my relationship to the community? And what is my relationship to the planet? And I think, through this relationship building, we start to build what is called kinship. Now, kinship is kind of the action of being in relation to something. So it's really about going out and understanding your user, right? Understanding who is going to be involved with your technology. From a design wise, I think it's really important to keep accessibility in mind from the beginning, from the conception of the development process, right? And I think through that, you get additional developers having the ability to test these products with a diverse group of users to really identify and fix the accessibility issues. And I think even from a policy perspective, I think government should have this piece where they set an accessibility standard and regulations that these things are integrated into the process of these products and services from the onset. And then more importantly, I think it's about conducting user research and really getting an intimate human-centered design approach to who you're actually building for and creating that language around your products and services that fit a wide range of users.
I would add another point. When we start designing a product from user experience design, I am let's say my big chunk of history. If you ask me who I am professionally, I would say user experience design, even though I do a lot more. But from user experience design, the first question is, who is the person? Who is the user that you want to design for? And as the others said also before, even if I so one of the projects that I showed Grant before is that even a project that we did for a specific child or a specific person in a wheelchair or a specific person, whoever that was, that we solved one of his problems. Once we found a solution for one person, it doesn't mean that the solution is only for one person. There are several other people. I don't know how many, but the institute knows, and they were able to kind of spread around the solution, whatever that was, whether it's an interface for a computer, whether it's a video game because the guy wanted to play a little bit, whether it's whatever it was that he needed at the time. And the idea was that whatever you do, you allow someone to do something he couldn't do before. And even if it's only for that one person, which in accessibility, you really have to understand the specific situation of that person. Even in this case, it's still something that you can scale up later. And to say one last thing before your second idea, in video games, every time you select a character, normally we know, as video game designers, we know that normally you would select not a character that is like you, like your personality. Most of the times you select someone that is the opposite of you, or someone that has something that you don't. just in order to try something or to experience something else or to try to explore personalities. And this is also some type of accessibility because you are able to explore something. And I would say that this is some kind of when we talk about the metaverse and having one avatar for yourself in many areas, it actually contradicts a bit this kind of principle. But we can talk about this also later. But in a way, the accessibility or exploration of different products, I think that this is an important point for the future. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'd like to add, I just was at CES in January, and I actually felt like I saw the byproduct of the last probably like 6 or 7 years of diversity inclusion in technology. Like I actually saw the byproduct of what that was at the CES, and there was a lot more technology that was inclusive. There was more technology that was around accessibility, utilizing robots to help people with different types of disability issues. The biggest winner was a device to help women who shake or have limited mobility in their hands to put lipstick on. I mean, just something very simple like that. And that was the big winner at CES, where it stabilized the handle so the woman could actually put lipstick on her lips and feel pretty. I mean, simple things like that to really focus on accessibility, I think is very important. And it's the opposite effect of what was happening like maybe 20 years ago when cameras started to roll out and it couldn't see dark skin. It was only seeing light skin. Well, so we've had the last 10 years of really opening up our labs to different types of people with different types of needs and issues. And I started to see that unfold at CES, and that was pretty encouraging. And another thing that I think is really encouraging, like on a society level, I mean, we just had the Super Bowl, and while Rihanna was performing, there was an American Sign Language performer who just stole the show from everybody, and and she went viral. And that was very exciting for me to see, because to me, I think American Sign Language should be the gesturing that we use in these spaces, and with the technology. It should be what the gestures that we should be adopting as what we use to communicate with AI and with the cameras and the hardware and such that's sensing us and tracking us. And then that will really open up the world to everybody. I mean, if everybody knew how to do American Sign Language, I mean, that would just be pretty amazing. The world would be a lot quieter. It'd be nicer.
Interoperability, because we have so many languages.
If I can add,
yeah, go ahead.
Like when it comes to promotion, I feel like if we go back to say the 1950s, 1960s, this isn't one that got popular opinion. It didn't sway popular opinion. It was basically family associations, the advocacy of those small family associations over a long period of time that ended up developing and validating the practices for children with disabilities and their families in schools. And then it was years and years later, 15 years later, that we have, this turned into a law of any sort. So I see a lot of the public advocacy right now is going to be small groups of parents. But when you start realizing that, this type of ableism is pretty systemic, and it every equity seeking group is kind of impacted in the same way, you start to realize that they are not the minority. In fact, they are the majority. And so these voices become bigger and bigger. And then eventually you get to the point where they'll say we've got over, about 4 million students in 1976 that were, in the school age, and they were being served by these disability acts. So I think that it's important to recognize that every person who is impacted has a family, and they have others that are with them. And so the advocacy is much, much bigger, but it starts with those strongest advocates. I think Marquez was referring to kinship. You find those people, you find your people, and then that kind of gets things going, especially in this case.
Yeah, speaking of advocacy, I'm thinking when you say that, so many different groups like behind the scenes are coming together, making these associations to help impact what we normally see, such as the Grammys, such as some of these NFL games, such as like, et cetera. And behind the scenes, there's these groups of people who are now advising. I know that for the Grammys this year, there was this group of people that were, Lachi is a woman who's a blind musician. She's a Black woman, she's a musician and doing amazing things. She sits on this board for artists and musicians, and she helps to kind of navigate disability inclusion for the Grammys. So there's a lot of work still to be done, but when we start to see certain things like when we're looking at these public events and we're seeing that, yes, there's like, I believe that it was a few events recently where we had some sign language interpretation, where we had all these different things. It's because behind the scenes, people are gathering and advising and pushing. And one of the things I'm trying to do as well, and I'm sure everyone here is in their capacity, I heard Barik as well kind of mention from his angle, is trying to get in front of the people who are creating and investing tons of money into technology platforms. So I got in front of Ericsson. I've spoken in front of many different technology platforms, and all these people who are investing and saying, but we need to think about accessibility. We need to think about disability inclusion. It must be ingrained in your design process because it didn't start that way, but we need to catch up. So I think voices like that and all these other people, it's very important towards that advocacy.
Yeah, I want to hear from Barik back. We have a question that came, or a statement that came from the audience from Africa saying, if progress is to be realized, is in underdeveloped nations, gatekeeping and gatekeepers need to step down. Do you agree or disagree with that? That's for you.
Yeah. Gatekeeping and gatekeepers need to step down. I have a hard time understanding what that means. I really can't answer that. If somebody can help and explain what gatekeeping and gatekeepers mean.
It means people who think that there's a certain way to do things, and if you deviate out of that certain way of doing things, then you're doing it all wrong. And they have they tell you, oh, you're doing it completely wrong. It's got to be done this way. And that's usually people who think that they know what, you know. Yeah.
The thing is, coming from an African or an underdeveloped nation is, it's true that in government we like to think that we know everything and this is how things should be done, and we do get in touch with experts, international experts, and etc. and what have you, to actually implement actions into territories, or implement new ideas, etc. But the social reality actually is fighting for, this is not how we can accept these things. I'm not talking about technology here. I'm talking, in a general way. It's true that I will not go as further as saying step down, but it's today in the governments that we have, and I'm talking about mine, we have youngsters, we have young people actually working in places that can actually pull everyone in a way, and then let them think by themselves. Let them do stuff by themselves. This is why I said at the beginning, I am working with implementing laws, but I'm also working with NGOs to actually help them create, help them innovate, to help the community. You see? So I think that if we have this balance, we need that balance with understanding what the social reality is, and understanding how we can all work together to actually implement whatever we need to implement. And as I said, in Africa or in underdeveloped countries as a whole, it's nothing can work if there is no solution. Like let's remind ourselves about how the mobile penetration came, how mobile phone actually exploded in Africa. It was because of the mobile banking. It's because it's a solution for everyone, and the penetration today is, maybe if I'm not wrong, we're going to 85 to 86% of penetration into the whole continent. So, so what are the solutions? The gatekeepers will still try to fight, but there is a shift. There is a shift now going into the governments, into the parliaments, into, people are understanding that youngsters, communities, NGOs, these are the ones that we can rely on to actually drive whatever change need to be done.
Man, I love this discussion. We're getting.
Can I offer a counterpoint? Like on the opposite side?
Oh, one second. We're gonna give you a minute because we got questions. I see them all coming in. But now, go ahead. Let me hear what your insight is, Dr. Ed.
Okay, so when I was advocating for school councils, one of the superintendents told me, like, we don't talk to those people. Those are the enemy. And I've kind of realized over time that essentially when we are doing that, like we say, like these gatekeepers or other people are like people that need to step down. It also says that we're not going to listen to them. It says that, their voice isn't really that important. And my feeling is these are the kinds of things that tend to limit our creativity. And they are the things that prevent us from seeing the possibilities that will help all people. And so my emphasis is don't limit your creativity and recognize, like, if we can build this up so that it becomes the more diverse the teams, especially at the decision-making table, the more ideas we have at the table, the more solutions that we can come up with. If we force ourselves into this hole of it's only people who are like me and I will only listen to those types of people, then we have all sorts of problems. You're going to be excluding all sorts of people in your decision making. And so it is very important to keep that open mind. Don't limit your creativity in order to get over those barriers. So it's a hard thing to do because you don't want to listen to people. We're very polarized, like where AI has made us very like one side or the other. But it is really, if you listen to each side, there's a lot of things that are very common between them. And I'm a huge advocate for there's common ground. Let's find it.
Well, you also got to remember that a lot of our society is built on bureaucracy, and it's built on processes that people have set in place that they don't want to let go, and it benefits them or it benefits their people only. And it's detrimental to everybody else. I mean, look at climate change. We're suffering from bureaucracy and climate change right now. And that's a lot of gatekeeping in itself, right? We have new things that we want to do and we're not implementing them because it's going to hurt the pocket of somebody who has been living off of that process for generations, right? And one of the things that was very important to our MIT project, Marcus and my MIT project, was to instill the idea of being nomadic in this country. This country was a nomadic country to start, and we came in and we settled it and we paved it and we made it, a huge bureaucracy of sorts. And it doesn't really serve us anymore. It never really did serve us. It only served the government so they could keep track of us, and only served a certain portion of society who had the means to, get estates and generational wealth and whatnot. But the average person, this system isn't necessarily tailored for them. So with our project of creating tiny homes and communities that encourage nomadic living, encourage the moving around the country, to follow the migration, to follow the weather, I think that right there in itself is a simple thing, but it completely goes against everything that this country has been established on, and what it means to be an American, and what it means to own something and to have, your stake in the ground with your flag. So yeah, we gotta think about things a little bit differently nowadays.
I'm gonna chime in right now because this is so good. We're having a great discussion because we're talking about society. We're talking about social engineering, right? And what does that look like? We have to understand, if we want to call it that, but from the last 10 years, the decade, how we've been social engineered through social media. And that you've got certain players in place that have really benefited a lot from gaining our data and understanding our behaviors and that type of thing. So it's explosive. To Barek's point, what he said, it's about adoption. This was such a huge adoption with mobile technology, and it just blew up. No one anticipated that. MySpace was around for a long time before Facebook, but why now? What happened? Well, there's other technologies that kind of help to kind of foster that growth. We're now at a different point, and we're at a point now that this newer technology is a game changer because it's shaping finance, it's shaping the technology, it's changing society. Here we are in this group setting right now, and we're located all over the globe. So we're having much more engaged conversations that we would never have had, let's say, even 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. We would not have come together the way that we are to discuss these things, because the power is in the people. The people can shape the technology if they become more active, be proactive. This is what we're looking at Web3. Why people like Web3? Yeah, it's on a blockchain. There's some tech to it, but the ownership aspect of it, the thing that Dulce just talked about, like, wow, it's a game changer. I can change how the game is being played. So you're going to get polarization with that, because that's just some, there's going to be losers and winners in how this thing is going to move forward. Not to lose why we're talking about right now, because you talked about housing. Let's talk about some of these other things that technology can shape and change the way that we live in a complete society. When it comes to transportation, it comes to independent living, it comes to all these things about language that you talked about. All these barriers that are between us can now be sunset. Who would like to chime in on that conversation?
Yeah, I was gonna say that that what we're talking about kind of like breaking the rules and starting explode this thing and start over again. Even within what we talked about, user experience and design, even UX itself, if you talk to any UX designer, they're going to say that they have a set of standards that they're supposed to go by, and they almost fight by that thing. They're like, no, we have to design this certain way, and these are the principles, and they get very particular about that world. I work with UX designers every day. So it's like, I think that it's even challenging what we've learned. It's challenging, what does normal look like? Do you, to Dulce's point, like, do you have to, live this certain way to say that that's what success looks like? No, you can migrate, you can live in different places, which then opens up the concept of us considering others. Consider the migration that exists around this world and the refugee crisis that is all around this world. And what about those people? And then it goes back to, how do we give access to those people to have certain technology at their hands? How do we, so it's such a beautiful ecosystem what we're talking about today, but I think it requires us to really intentionally break patterns, break rules. And I would encourage anyone who's out here listening that's trying to do any project, whether that's if you're, adopting ChatGPT, if you're creating metaverses, if you're creating avatars, extended reality, this is the moment right now to really blow it up, to be rebellious, to break the rules, to do something with inclusion in mind, to really break it, because this is the inception of something new, and we can really change that.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in real quick. I think when we think about technology, I think that is a great point, Giselle. But when we think about technology, sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and we kind of think that technology is always forward, right? And the way that I like to look at it is that there's a lot of indigenous practices that actually approach technology in a way that we need to get back to, right? And when it comes to community building, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to self-actualization even. And I think, from humans' first kind of perspective of putting that first wall up, right, to protect us from the elements, we've been building in that manner of like, what can actually like box us in? If you look at our homes, there are boxes and rectangles, but how about we get back into this more natural symbiotic relationship with the planet, right? And I think through that aspect of understanding that we are part of this larger organism, we will start to create these technologies that are actually in alignment with that. And I go to say there's this gentleman, James Edwards, he's a professor who actually created this position paper called Indigenous Protocol and Artificial Intelligence. And he created these workshops with a lot of indigenous people from the Polynesian islands. And he asked these practitioners, what is the way that you guys would create hardware and software? And basically what they said is we would take the same considerations that as if we were creating a sweat lodge, if we were creating a ritual, if we were creating something that needed deep consideration that would have effects for generations to come. And I think if we start to get back into this mind frame of saying that technology is a tool that we can actually utilize, but it's really humans that need the upgrade in the operating system in order to create those technologies that we need. And I think practically what that looks like is create open sourced technologies, right? Where people from all different types of diverse backgrounds can start to build on those frameworks. Like if you look at Chat GPT, it's something that anybody could use. You could put it in an API, and then ultimately, you know, it's standardized to where how you want to utilize that technology. So all I'm saying is that getting back to those indigenous practices of how we relate to things and the relationships that we create, I think could be really beneficial for the future.
Lovely statement. We're getting so much interaction in our chat. I mean, everybody's tuning in. It's like, wow, you guys are really onto something here as we move forward, because this is a good discussion to have. I want to bring something up that I found interesting. And I was looking at Dr. Ed and what he does. He's a vice president, customer engagement privacy officer, but he says, I'm a parent and I'm deeply concerned how we're going to make education relevant for careers that don't even exist today. I want you to elaborate on what you're talking about there.
Sure. There's been a few of us that have talked about generative AI, such as ChatGPT. And I think that the key here is, you know, I think a lot of people like see this, and we've been here in Alberta, we've been talking a lot about commodities like the oil and gas price. And right now we're kind of in a tech slump. And what happens with commodities is like programming, for example, is becoming a commodity. So what happens when tech is down, everybody gets fired at the same time. Everybody's looking for a job at the same time. And what the same thing is happening in other fields. So it could be writing or graphic design. Everything becomes a commodity. And so in those cases, you really have to ask the question of what are you going to do that's going to maintain that difference over a long period of time? And right now in our society, we have over half of our Gen Zs who are working, they are freelancing. They're using platforms like Fiverr or Upwork. And in those kind of cases, your boss is not another human being. Your boss is an AI, right? The AI determines what type of opportunities will be available to you. It determines who bubbles up to the top. So you better know that AI because you are going to be at a severe disadvantage compared to people who do not. The thing I often add is that, you know, in China, for example, they're teaching AI in kindergarten all the way up to grade 12. There's a curriculum. By the time these kids graduate from school, they're already going to be world experts on AI. And AI is just power, you know, it's just power who controls attention on the internet. It's the power to control whether or not you succeed or you don't succeed. So you must know this. And I used to think that when I went to school, if you want to learn like technology and AI, you need to go and study math and science. But when I went into industry, I realized that, no, I should have paid more attention in social studies. Mm-hmm. I should have taken a history lesson or two, because AI is power. It is power to determine who gets what, where, when, and how, especially on the internet. And so know this power. It's not about learning code. You may never write a line of code in your life, but you will use AI every time you do a search, every time you watch a video or a post, and when you apply for a job on LinkedIn. So these are the kinds of things that I feel like, especially for kids, I don't know what kind of jobs are going to be out there, but I do know you better know AI. You better know that base infrastructure if you want to be successful. So that's kind of my emphasis.
That's beautiful. I mean, what you stated there is a reality. This is a huge game changer. No other technology has been adopted so quickly like generative AI, audio AI. It is a absolute game changer. It's changing careers. It's changing business rapidly. And then there's a lot of about faces. As you see, Google's even laying up. They're like, whoa, big Google, who's now under government scrutiny about being a monopoly. Like, whoa, wait a minute, I just lost $100 billion in stock just because of one technology, but has a good use case. It's a good use case. I want to. I see Barack over there. I won't call him Barack. Barack. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name a little wrong. I want you to chime in on this because you speak a lot about blockchain. You speak a lot about the digital economy. You see what's the change. What do you see that's happening now with AI on the scene?
Well, what we see is, as I said earlier, like this is a big shift. But here, Christopher actually said what need to be said is we have to remove ourselves from hype cycle expressions. The humans always adapt, and when it comes to the digital economy, as you said, like 100 billion lost from Google, but they will recover. They will recover. Why? Because the technology is well expanding. They have their base. They have the how do you call it? They have the technology behind it. They are still working on it. Yeah, they don't want to actually. I mean, we all heard that. Yeah, it was a red alert in Google, and they are actually running around now because Bing and Microsoft did it before them, etc., etc. You cannot believe this because you know that they are a big player here, and as we're talking about the governments and let the people work and etc., etc. There is a monopoly, and this monopoly we will not lose it. The monopoly is here. These people are still here, and they will only expand from here. You cannot lose, and this is a prediction. We cannot. I mean, the world will not lose the GAFAM as we know them, and they will expand from here. They will only expand from here.
This is interesting. I see Dr. Oz. I'm calling you Dr. Oz. You're shaking your head. What's on your mind?
Because I totally agree with Barik about this. That Google's fall when Google fell. When I heard about the 100 billion deficit, I told myself, okay, now I have to buy a stock, because it's come on guys, it's Google. I mean, at the end of the day, they have the people. Yes, they had a mistake, but they still have the technology. They will still recover, and I do agree with this point. So for me, it was like okay, I should find $1,000 to buy, but I don't. So I don't have it, so it's fine. But anyway, to wrap before, I had to say something about Giselle's note before about being normal and normalization and all this discussion. I think this is a nice point here, because being standard or being normal, it's something that I connect again to video games, but I think maybe it's quite interesting, this little hooks about video games as well. But the idea of being normal doesn't exist. So in a video game, because you are taking another person or another role of another character that is not you, and this is kind of and as a being this, I don't like to say disabled, but being a person with a different abilities, let's say, or with a different kind of skill set, it's something particular. This is what you have that is extra. So someone that doesn't speak, okay, so they will be able to do something else better. Someone that doesn't see, they will be able to do something else better. And this is something that we have to remember. And the same goes for, by the way, for third world countries. I would say that people that live in a third world country have something that we don't have. Something, maybe the community, sense of community, maybe the sense of family, maybe whatever that is they have. I believe that they have something that we don't have. And I think that this being able to, so I think one of our challenges is also to be able to take it all in without destroying our strength, let's say, to gather everybody, but without destroying our foundations that we already have.
I think that's a powerful statement you just made. I'm always reminded, we had this discussion, I was going over in my mind, and I was thinking about the movie Avatar, and I just remembered how, this person was a disabled Marine, and then he got transported into a whole new body, and then a whole new culture that he ended up adopting because it was an enablement for him. And I think that's something as we get ready to close, that what we're building together, what we're looking at together, us here, that we are game changers. We can change the lives of so many people. I loved your description of someone just being able to put lipstick on. Something as simple as that, or to be able to conceptualize a home when you're homeless. I mean, that's beautiful. When you can have someone who's blind that can actually play a guitar, man. I mean, your vision. I mean, what you guys are doing is beautiful. It makes our world a much more inclusive place because we're actually paying attention to our people in our society, and we're helping them. We're not just putting tech out there to put tech out there. Here's a whole new way of getting your energy, your data, your money from you. No, let's try to help our society become better. That's the point. I see Dr. Ed up there just smiling away. Who we got 4 minutes.
Can I make
Yeah,
a
if
point?
I can add, Zach, what I wanted to add was that I think that the community actually already supports, like the metaverse already well supports individuals with disabilities. And if I look at like even the job market, for example, in China, there are many people who are pushed out of the workforce in China who are able to make a living even as a disabled worker by helping to like do tagging and creating information systems online. And I think it's important to recognize that these individuals have a lot to contribute. They're not just like, we're doing this as a type of charity. It's like they are more reflective about the type of work that they do. They're more thoughtful when it comes to the organization. They're more organized than many individuals in a regular workforce. They have unique skills that we need to leverage more, and we need to treat them as an important resource, not just this charity work that we're doing for people. It's not that. It's like they actually have something to contribute. It's just that it's hard to because they don't have the able body, but they have very able minds. And I think we are missing out on a lot of the resource that exists if we don't take advantage of their very able minds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dulce, you like to chime in?
Oh, I just wanted to say that I think we really have to start with, or really take a deep look at our education system and know that it is still rooted in the 20th century of creating workers to work in factories or to work assembly line jobs. And we're not that anymore. We have moved completely away from that. And we're now to the point where AI is going to start making our art for us too. So, even if we want to be creative and not be an assembly line worker and we want to be a rock star, that's no longer a true career path either. And thinking about how we educate our future generations with this technology, with AI, I get excited to see Dr. Ed's AI parenting, because one of my passionate things is I eventually would like to make AI babies that grow up with human babies and become companions with them, and guide them for the rest of their lives, and then convert into being a digital representation of them after they pass. I think that's the future. We're going to be heading in that direction, and we need to start training our new generations to think in that way and to understand that these AI tools are just that, tools to prompt and manifest things instantly. It's the idea of the singularity, where you think it and you manifest it in your hands instantly. We're heading in that direction. So it's about training a new generation to think and feel that way, I think.
Man, we got 1 minute. Giselle, everybody will get 1 minute. Everybody will get 1 minute. Go right ahead.
I just been extremely inspired by everyone today on the panel. I hope that everyone listening will follow everyone's projects and that we can inspire people to think differently, like what Dulce just said.
Excellent. Excellent. Marquise.
Yeah, I just like to say, looking to the future, I think we need to also look to the past, right? And I think we also need to open up our ideas and our minds to understanding developing countries, right? Or countries that are about to make a leapfrog with this technology, because the way that they integrate with the earth and the way that they are able to understand kind of the broader principles of how technology works I mean, if we talk about technology, the Earth is what, 4.5 billion years of iteration over and over to create these relationships that create this consciousness that we're here right now. So add that layer of modern technology onto that. I think we can start to build some really amazing future society. So opening up that aspect of involving a diverse language and perspective, I think is going to be really important.
Awesome. Oz, would you like to give some final thoughts?
I will just say a sentence: stay happy, make people around you happy, and take care of them. That's first of all. Let's take care of our community, and then see what goes after.
Thank you. And all the way in Djibouti, we got.
Yes, thank you, Oz, because this will be actually a great segue for what I will say. I have read before a comment say, let the people in the communities freely express themselves. Well, when you come with, I'm still talking on the government perspective here, guys. We have a country with 68 to 70% of the population working in the public sector. So we are opening now. And we are pushing for the private sector, and we are pushing communities. So the government actually needs and to accompany them. You see, so that was the last thing I wanted to say. And thank you, guys. And it's a real honor to be with you.
No, thank you, everybody. This panel has been wonderful. One thing I'll leave everybody with: remember, your imagination is what powers the universe. Thank you very much. Tune in for our next show or click on our website at www.5starbdm/followthebrandtv. Thank you. Hey everyone, it's Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM and host of the award-winning Follow the Brand podcast and TV series, where I help you to build a 5-star brand that people will follow. My genius is personal brand development through intelligent communication and helping you achieve your business and career goals. I am a requested speaker on digital technology and brand development issues. I want to work with you to increase the value of your current opportunities while attracting new ones. Every one of you is unique, and we all share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. As a super connector, I work with you as an executive coach to guide you along the complicated business and career development road, providing the enhancement tools and information you need to succeed. Together, I will help you succeed in today's challenging business climate. I will evaluate and measure your progress. Best of all, I am right alongside you every step of the way. Build the brand called you. Genius.